Alright guys, back again with some more Q&A stuff. David says, I would love to know if I should focus on getting the lifters I have in my small weightlifting club, all of which are CrossFitters, to focus specifically on the split jerk as opposed to the always favored by a CrossFitter push jerk when learning or going for a max effort clean and jerk, and why? When does it become apparent that the push jerk is going to be your lift as opposed to the split jerk? Super common question with CrossFitters in particular, of course, because the power jerk or the push jerk is the more common jerk style there. One, because it's simpler, but two, because when you're learning to do the clean and jerk or the jerk within the context of a CrossFit style workout, you're trying to cycle through them as quickly as possible. And so, of course, the split jerk doesn't make a lot of sense. So if you are dealing exclusively with CrossFitters and the only reason they want to know how to do the clean and jerk is for doing it within a conditioning workout, then stick with the push jerk. Doesn't really matter. If they are exclusively CrossFitters but they do actually want to pursue bigger snatches and clean and jerks, in other words, they want to actually take that element of CrossFit and make it as good as possible, then they have to learn the split jerk. It doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to stick with the split jerk as their preferred form of the jerk forever, but it means they have to learn it because to answer your question, you don't get to decide whether or not you should push jerk or split jerk if you haven't even bothered trying to fully develop the split jerk. You have to actually invest time and effort into it. And you have to remember there is a reason, well, many reasons why the split jerk is overwhelmingly the preferred method of doing maximal jerks by competitive weightlifters around the world. You know, people will say, yes, but the Chinese. Yes, but the majority of the Chinese split jerk, right? You'll see more squat jerkers who happen to be Asian, but the majority of those lifters still split jerk. It is still by far the most popular variation of the jerk. The reason is very simple. Number one, with that split position, you have the broadest possible base. In all directions, you have width, right? So that means you have the greatest amount of stability. It also means that you have the largest margin for error. If that bar is a little bit forward, a little bit backward, a little bit to the side, you're able to relatively easily adjust with steps, even just transferring some pressure side to side, forward to back, to save a lift that is not put in a perfect position. It also allows you to get pretty low, but still in a position to be able to recover well. So compare a split jerk where that front thigh is about parallel. Compare that to a power jerk, or at that point would be basically a squat jerk with the thigh at parallel. Which one's easy to recover from, right? A split, you can kind of slow step your way back and wedge yourself back under. That power jerk or squat jerk at parallel or near to it is incredibly difficult to recover from. That's the hardest part of a squat, right? So imagine doing a parallel squat, likely with a pause, with a max effort clean weight. It's a tough prospect. And if you look at a power jerk or a push jerk specifically, you have to be able to elevate the bar very well. You have to be able to get way more height on it to be successful typically than you do in a split jerk. A split jerk just allows so much more stuff to go wrong or for you to not be perfect at and still be successful with. So getting back to that, if you are teaching, I teach a power jerk first as part of the progression to the split jerk, with the split jerk being the ultimate goal, because the power jerk minimizes the number of factors, right? There's no fancy footwork. You're either staying planted like a push jerk or you're moving your feet into a squat position like a power jerk. And that means, you know, the lifter can focus on that dip and that drive and that lockout. Now, once they have learned that, it is definitely time to learn the split jerk. And anytime you are going heavy, they should be doing split jerks. That should be the default maximal effort jerk style until it is determined that for whatever reason that is a hopeless endeavor and they are better at push jerking. It's usually pretty apparent if someone can be a more successful push jerker or power jerker than split jerker. That's someone whose, you know, heaviest jerks look remarkably easy. They just pop it right up there. The bar goes very high. They tend to be very precise. They tend to be very explosive and quick. power jerkers are not slow lifters. In other words, they don't dip really deep, they don't drive really long, they don't get really low under the bar. It's a very quick, explosive motion, and there's very rarely any doubt about whether or not they're going to make a jerk. So that's the number one key. People try to give up on the split jerk way too early typically because it's more difficult than a power jerk, right? It's more complicated. But again, if you haven't even invested the time and effort into learning it and practicing and training it, why would you expect to be good at it relative to the thing that's simpler and easier and that you've been doing more of? It seems obvious, but apparently it's not. So the way you kind of transition into that is, you do complexes of push jerk plus split jerk. You make sure that they actually understand that there's nothing different about the split jerk relative to the push jerk other than the footwork. The dip is the same, the positions are the same, the drive is the same, the overhead position is the same, the upper body doesn't move forward with the front foot. All those mistakes that people make when trying to transition to the split jerk, you have to make them understand conceptually that it's no different. And so when you can do a push jerk plus split jerk and try to replicate everything except the footwork, it goes a long way to helping them understand that and to making that transition a little easier. So I can't tell you how long that's going to take. It's like anything else. Some people pick that stuff up in a day, some people pick it up in 10 years. In any case, if someone wants to be serious about doing clean and jerks and wants to do the biggest clean and jerks possible, you're going to have to make them understand that the split jerk gives them the best opportunity for that if they invest the time. Now, if you get 6 months down the line and their split jerk just has not improved and they're putting genuine effort into it, maybe you throw in the towel and you let them power jerk. What I would say though is they are CrossFitters, and CrossFitters in theory are supposed to be good at the broadest range of physical activity possible. I would say that includes split jerks, right? So even if you determine that the power jerk is going to be their better variation for heavy jerks, I would still have them practicing and training split jerks, possibly with both feet forward, not at the same time, alternating, in order to develop that athletic ability. And you may find that kind of casually doing that over time, they begin to gravitate more toward the split jerk once they become more comfortable and they're not putting so much pressure on themselves about having to learn it and be better at it. In any case, a CrossFitter, like any serious athlete, should be able to do a split jerk at least reasonably well. So don't abandon it entirely, even if you decide that's not going to be the chosen jerk style. Keep training it and just emphasize the power jerk when you're going heavy. Greg Everett with Catalyst Athletics here. Please subscribe, like, and share this video. If you have questions, post them in the comments. I answer all of them. Also check out catalystathletics.com for the biggest Olympic weightlifting exercise library out there, along with hundreds of free articles and videos and other resources for both athletes and coaches.